Friends, and it's my pleasure to welcome Udo Buhlmann, our group president, who will speak now, and then, of course, there's time for your questions. Merci.
Very good morning from my side as well. Welcome to our meeting. Please allow me to quickly run through the issues which I regard being worthwhile to be mentioned here to you. And afterwards, I'm looking forward, of course, to the exchange of views, as usual. Let me underline I love to start positive. So let me underline, in Europe, we have positive developments. I went to Portugal over the weekend. I visited my friends in the Congress of the Socialist Party, and I congratulated our friend Antonio Costa on his re-election, and I found a country and I found a sister party of Social Democrats being in excellent shape, having done all what was to be done, rescuing a country also against all odds after the implementation of Troika measures. And I told my friends there, if Merkel is going to pay you a visit, then please tell her if she would like to see a country of the South standing up again, then she can look at Antonio Costa and on Portugal. So my full congratulations to the development here. Portuguese party has adopted a line for the European elections as well as for the national elections foreseen for the next year as well, which is very much in line with what we are doing here as Socialists and Democrats group on political content. I knew why I tried to start positively, because my next remarks are on Spain. Spain is under tension. You have seen that there will be a motion of censure on Friday, where 350 parliamentarians have a choice whether they would like to behave responsibly in full respect of their citizens. And it's very interesting to see how a leadership of the PPE, who are, especially in my home country in Germany, were always praised. Indeed, you know that Rajoy and his team were the poodles of Schäuble, were always praised for being the correct ones in the south of Europe, always being obedient to the rule of law, etc., etc. Obviously have to deal with scandals of corruption, so we will see how that is going to be sourced out. I can identify Zoe and Pedro Sanchez taking a tough line on that and speaking their mind and trying to reorganize the country, hopefully very soon. Italy, of course, is the main focus point of our worries this week. I have to say I admire the President of the Republic. We already mentioned that publicly. Mattarella did a great job in defending Italian society, Italian economy, and the future of his country in Europe. The real danger was indeed that with this government and its, let me be cautious, non-prudent orientation when it came to proposals for ministers, would have risked the whole Italian economy. Very, very quickly there would have been a danger of increasing spreads, of a damage of Italian economy by having a minister being well known for leading, for having the intention to lead the country out of the Eurozone. What means out of the European Union? Please be correct. There's only one way to leave the Eurozone. Juridically, then you have to leave the European Union, and that's in a situation where we talk about a cornerstone, a founding partner of the European Union would have been a disaster. I think President Mattarella safeguarded the future of the next generation in Italy and was very supportive for the integrity of the country, its economy, and the integrity of European Union. So I have zero understanding for those who attack him now. It's a very sincere situation. It's a very sensitive situation, and all pro-Europeans are with the president and the integrity of the Republic. Now, it will not be the last time that we have been speaking about developments in Italy, I'm bloody sure. One word on Zuckerberg and hearing in the parliament, which was quoted by many of you and commented by many of you. We the progressives here in the House only had one choice to make, whether this happened behind closed doors or whether we opened it up to the public by insisting on the web stream. This is what we did. This is what my party group did in a coalition with the progressive forces, that we said we insist on the web streaming. Of course, it was too short, too flat, not substantial enough, and for that it can only be the first step of the clarification of what was going on with the abuse of media power. And you can be sure that we will insist on follow-ups in the respective committees, especially in LIBE. And this week's Conference of Presidents will deal with this question. On MFF, the current debate, yes, we already let you know we are disappointed. The proposal is not living up to the real challenges. We had indicated that MFF could also have been a masterpiece in adapting to forward-looking wise, adapting the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. This is what we would propose to develop towards, and there will be talks and negotiations with our partners here and in the Council. Posting of workers, the vote today, that is my final point. By far the biggest achievement in this mandate, a file where we as Socialists and Democrats have fully invested ourselves to achieve that. It's about 2 million posted workers in the European Union who finally deserve fair treatment, who for the first time have a guarantee that there is equal rights, equal pay at the same places for the same work. We are very proud of what we achieved here, and especially of our rapporteur, Agnes Jongerius, and we hope that everything goes very smoothly today. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Udo Bullmann. I think there's a first question from Davide. If you can introduce your name and medium. Merci.
Of course, thank you. David Carretta, Radio Radicale, Italian radio. I'm here. And question on Italy, if I may. You mentioned the spreads. And the spreads are going up. We are at level of 2013. Major concerns on 2 years bonds. The yields is near 2%. My interpretation is that the market are anticipating a sort of referendum on the euro in the next election. Do you think that Italy is at risk of leaving the European Union and the Eurozone, since you mentioned the two together? Thank you.
If you allow me, I come directly to David's question. Yes, I think the situation is very serious. I will not compare Italy to the United Kingdom, but I will not compare, let me repeat, I will not compare Italy to the United Kingdom, but mentioning the United Kingdom, we could make some experience how fake news and fake propaganda was able to get a whole country out of track and finally lead into the disaster. And if you look on what the cheap talk of Italian politicians about leaving the Eurozone, being provocative to the rules of the game, saying we do not care about the rules of the Eurozone, get rid of them, etc., etc., this is dangerous stuff. Because if you have an economic crash, if you would leave the euro, which juridically is impossible without leaving the European Union, I repeat myself, what would happen? And we have to make that very transparent. Do you think the rich people will suffer? Not for 1 second, because they bring their money to the Swiss banks a week before, and they know very well who is going to suffer. It's the pensioners, it's the ordinary people whose salaries, whose pensions will be halved overnight. So you can put a nation into the worst crisis if you have and show no responsibility in a situation like that. And it will be the ordinary people, it will be the small and medium-sized enterprises who suffer from crashes like that. This is our historical experience, like it was last time in 2008 and 2009. And those who do not realize that, and those who do not accept responsibility in a situation like that, they are leading their countries into the trash, and this is what we have to make clear. So it's not about here having the elites, the so-called elites, and the anti-establishment parties. This is fake news. This is elite treatment where you enable elites to have, this was the economic program, flat taxes, ignoring the rules of the Eurozone and the European Union, enabling the rich one to safeguard their richdom wherever the poor people will suffer from the destruction of the Eurozone rules and the European Union. This is the situation we are in, and we have to make that completely clear into the domestic talks in Italy, as well as in the European talks of our people here who of course discuss about Italy. And if Italy is going to fail, we are in danger to fail in the whole Eurozone. So yes, you are right. It is really serious.
Are there other questions? Yes, up at the front, at the back, please.
Maria Psara, Ethnos Newspaper, Greece. You don't compare, you said, Italy to Great Britain, to United Kingdom, but do you can you compare it to Greece? When in 2015 we had a new government and the whole Europe was in a mess because of the new ideas that this government brought to EU. And do you believe that the rise of the spreads would cause any problem to the exit of the program for Greece on August 2018? Thank you.
Maria, I could be very short in saying, no, I don't compare Greece and Italy, because in Greece we have a government which tries to responsibly negotiate with its partners in the European Union, in the Commission, and in the Council. And what obviously is the case, and that was the message from the working level in the Council, that the working level the other day respected the achievements of Greece and the fulfillment of the obligations, and we are looking forward to having positive results also when the ministers are dealing with this chapter in June.
Further questions? Anything? Yes, please.
Papadimitriou is my name for Deutsche Welle and the Greek press. Please let me ask the question in German. Herr Bullmann, lange...
Mr. Bullmann, in recent years we've heard a lot about the risks of open borders, a refugee crisis. Now it would appear that the European Parliament, the European Union, are going to talk about the costs of non-Schengen, the costs attached to doing away with Schengen. What exactly is this all about? This is a very important perspective. As you know, the European Parliament has been at the forefront of championing the achievements of the Schengen area. There are very practical reasons why we introduced the Schengen Agreement, why we decided to ease the burden on freedom of movement and goods and employment. We wanted to make the benefits of Europe more evident in travel. We don't want to change tack here. We in the European Parliament wish to ensure that any restrictions on Schengen travel are dismantled as quickly as possible. Reintroduction of border checks has not proven to be effective. It has not helped to tackle organised crime in an effective fashion. So yes, I do believe that the European Parliament is the guardian of Schengen and will continue to pioneer that rule to ensure that we fully restore the Schengen Agreement.
One more question over here. Yes, please.
Monsieur El Mali, journaliste de la télévision kurde.
I'm from the Kurdish television.
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
In 4 weeks, there's going to be elections in Turkey, both legislative and presidential elections. I was wondering how closely your group is going to be following these elections, whether you're going to be supporting your sister party in Turkey. And when it comes to the candidacy of Mr. Demirtas, who is the candidate that's been accepted but is still in prison, what would you say about that?
I switch back to Deutsche Welle brought me on German. Forgive me. I'm switching back on English. Of course, we are very, very sensitive on the developments in Turkey. This is not only since yesterday, and this is not only because of the forthcoming election. Especially my party, the Social Democrats, especially my group here in the European Parliament, the Socialists and Democrats, we were always defending, unlike others, always defending the European perspective of Turkey. And we would, in the best interest of Europe, in the best interest of the Turkish people, the Turkish society, always defend the European perspective of Turkey. So we cannot be happy. We are shocked by the recent years, by Erdogan's more and more authoritarian, anti-European course of politics in Turkey. And we would invest ourselves to the utmost if a U-turn of Turkish politics would be possible. So this is my general stance on the upcoming election. We have progressive candidates. There is a decline of the economy in Turkey. You see that a policy of isolation, a policy of turning the back to Europe is not successful. It's not successful economically. It's not successful when it comes to international politics, alliances and relations. So this is the wrong path, and I wish all the best of luck for the progressives, for the pro-Europeans in Turkey who defend the civic values which we share in the European Union and who defend the democracy in the Turkish society.
Okay, I think we will have to come to an end. Is there any further question at this stage? One, Mathieu, and then we have to close.
Oui, bonjour, Mathieu Bion.
Good morning, Agence Europe. I have a question on the political crisis in Italy. Would this de facto have prevented any decision at the Eurozone summit on completing the banking union and deepening ties in the Eurozone?
I did not fully get the idea of the conditioning. What conditioned what? Could you please repeat?
Est-ce que la crise politique
did the political crisis, the lack of a government or prime minister, would that prevent decisions at the end of June at the Eurozone summit on completing the banking union? That would be the easier decision to take. And would it prevent other decisions on deepening ties in the Eurozone?
Thank you for repeating your question. Well, the very short is hopefully not. The bit longer answer is it's a pity that we cannot rely on Italy at the very moment, because to modernize the Eurozone, it needs more than Berlin and Paris. It's an illusion that you can do it only in two capitals. If you want to have a real reform of the Eurozone, if you want to have a real reform of the European and Monetary Union, then we need the full Eurozone to agree on a new scheme and to be ready to implement it. Traditionally, Italy has been a strong partner for both, for France as well as for Germany, and moving towards a pro-European direction in its national politics behavior, and we would very much miss if that is going to stop.
Oops. Is it a very short question? Otherwise, we take it outside? Because,
Oui,
yes.
très courte.
Yes, very briefly. In relation to the challenges for the press conference tomorrow on the Dublin regulation, I was just wondering what your opinion was there.
Well, the issue is at stake, but it's complicated because you do not exactly know how many partners you have to rework the whole agenda. And where we are pushing for is clear. We are saying, as Socialists and Democrats, and this is our traditional stance, that we need to have a full partnership in migration and in refugee policy, and that we cannot only put all responsibility of those member states who are border member states. So we need to have the full responsibility of the full European Union to agreeing to new schemes. That was the policy of the Commission in the past. You have seen that, and we Socialists and Democrats have fully-hearted always supported that. I know that it's not very easy to get new ground on that at the very moment, but nonetheless we have to try, and nonetheless we have to remind everybody on their responsibilities. And when it comes to forward-looking strategies for the European Union, we have to put that on the agenda because, again, in Europe, you cannot cherry-pick where you would like to share and where you would like not to share responsibility. Thanks very much for your attention and for your questions.
Thanks a lot and have a good week.